If you're looking to buy a stacked NBA 2K account with max badges and more, visit sportstmb.com. He has been in the community for years and has hundreds of reviews. Click the first link in the description to get your account today.
All right, here we go again. Here I am talking about Kobe Bryant not being bad. Again. Hey guys, did you know that Kobe Bryant was a pretty good basketball player? I don't know about you, but I think he was pretty alright. Apparently, that's a hot take now. I don't know why it would be, but here we are, I guess. Okay, that intro was just me being angry at stupidity. Let's try to attempt to give this some level of structure. James Harden has been having yet another ridiculous season so far this year. After the 55-point game that he had last night, he is averaging 38 points per game, as well as 6 rebounds and 7.5 assists, doing so shooting 43% from the field and 33% from 3. Though he does have a 62% true shooting percentage, which makes that efficiency look way better. As much as I am going to talk bad about James Harden in this video, I'm not going to show stats without context. James Harden is definitely an efficient player despite the box score stats not making it appear that way. But with how good James Harden has been playing this year and how he played last year, there have been some people coming to the conclusion that James Harden is better than Kobe Bryant. I haven't really seen anyone say that Harden is better all time than Kobe, but I have seen takes that, as individual talents, Kobe isn't as good as James Harden at the most extreme, or the way more common take is that he isn't as good of an offensive player as James Harden. I'm going to be talking about both of those takes and why I find them ridiculous. Now, as much as I dislike watching James Harden, I want to make it very clear that I am aware that he is a very, very, very talented player. I in no way deny his talent. When people bring up the idea of James Harden being better than Kobe Bryant, lots of boomers will act like he isn't actually that good of an offensive player or player in general, which is not true. They say that he's a fraud, or even that you could take an average NBA player, put them in James Harden's role, and they would put up the same numbers, which I have got to say is a far more ridiculous take than saying that Harden is a better player than Kobe. No, not every player can do what James Harden does. If force-fed on every play, sure, maybe the top half of the NBA could average 38 points per game, but they do it on like 12% shooting. It takes a truly insane talent level to do what James Harden does. I don't like it. I really, really hate watching James Harden play basketball because I think he embodies everything that's wrong with the NBA today. Not that it's worse than the NBA in the past, because that's another thing that boomers like to say. But I by no means undervalue James Harden's talent. I have even in the past defended James Harden's tendency to bait for fouls, though I kinda disagree to an extent with some of that video, but I'm definitely not a James Harden hater, I guess. But now that I've made it clear that I'm really not that biased against James Harden, I should probably divulge the fact that I am biased towards Kobe Bryant. Kobe is the reason that I love basketball. Before I was routinely watching the NBA, I was watching Kobe Bryant highlights on YouTube, as well as those really corny inspiration mixes. I'd watch those at 13, imagine my future NBA career, and go outside and shoot fadeaways in my driveway. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. I literally have this book from Kobe on my bookshelf, and it sucks because it's basically a picture book, but I bought it before it was even out. However, I do like to think that I'm pretty objective about Kobe. I might not have been in the past, but I have him around the 7th to 8th best player of all time in NBA history. If you think that Kobe Bryant is the best player in NBA history, you are either really ignorant or just willfully stupid. But to quickly get past the idea that James Harden is a better player than Kobe Bryant overall, for the people who actually believe that, let's give you a nickname. How about fucking moron? Does that work? Okay, for the fucking morons, I would like to introduce you guys to a concept that is little known with your people, and that is Defense. I don't know if you guys knew this, but there are two sides of the ball in basketball. You have to play offense and defense. Defense isn't just something that James Harden has to try and score on. It's something that Harden is supposed to play as well. Quick fourth wall break, if this channel could even qualify for a fourth wall. Is this condescending enough? Because I was going for really condescending. Now, yes, James Harden isn't nearly the level of shitty defender that he was a few years ago, because in the past, he was a straight up meme as a defender, constantly showing up on Shaqtin' a Fool from his lack of effort on the defensive end. Now, Harden puts up an acceptable level of effort. He is pretty solid as a one-on-one defender, and he is an outlier as a post defender. He was ranked as first in post defense in the last few years, and I think that stems from how strong he is. Anytime a big's on Harden, they get it in their head that they have a mismatch because they have a 6'5" guy on them, but he's really strong and ends up giving them problems. There's a lesson in why bullying works, kids. But overall, James Harden is a slightly below average defender, and for the overall scope of his career, he has been a bad defender. Now let's flip it over to Kobe. Over his 20-year NBA career, Kobe was selected to 12 All-NBA defensive teams, and one of those seasons he played literally just 6 games, so that's basically 12 for 19. 9 of those 12 defensive teams were first teams as well. Kobe in his career was one of the most fierce defenders of all time. He had the combination of his ridiculous basketball IQ, his athleticism and size as a 2-guard, and his fierce competitive attitude, which allowed for him to strike fear into the hearts of the guys that he was defending, or whatever other cliche you want to go with. So Kobe, one of the best perimeter defenders of all time, versus Harden, who is an okay defender on a good day and just can't be posted up on, I don't think there's a competition here. Now, by no means do I think that offensive and defensive talent is equal. Offensive talent is a lot harder to come by than defensive talent. If they were equal, then Andre Roberson would be just as good of a player as Stephen Curry. Because Andre Roberson, when he's actually played, is as good on defense as Stephen Curry is on offense, but that's just not how value works in the NBA. People would never criticize Chris Dunn if defense was as valuable as offense is. However, if you have two crazy offensive talents, one of which is an okay defender and one of which is one of the best of all time, it's no contest. I think you choose the elite defender there easily. But let's talk about the way more common opinion here. The more common take is that James Harden is a better offensive player than Kobe, but not better overall. That one is more acceptable, and I'm not really mad at it, but I disagree. Let's start by talking about the one thing offensively outside of scoring, and that is obviously playmaking. Yes, James Harden is a better playmaker than Kobe Bryant, but I do not think that the difference is as big as people would have you believe. It's important to consider the context of the eras and the systems that they played in. One, for the majority of his career, Kobe played under Phil Jackson in the triangle. In the triangle, players really don't stand out assist-wise. It's a team ball system that works well with scoring guards, as proved by Jordan and Kobe, as well as Curry and Klay a little bit because Steve Kerr says there is some triangle in the Warriors offense. For an example of how assist-killing the triangle offense can be, look no further than when Phil Jackson became the head coach of the Bulls with Michael Jordan's assist numbers. MJ averaged 5.9 assists a game, then after they brought in Jackson, Jordan averaged just 5.1 for the rest of his career, and Jordan was trending to a higher assist average before he was hired, with the last year of his career without Phil seeing him average 8 assists per game. Then another bit of context that is important is spacing. It is just simply easier to get assists these days with how spread out the floor is, as well as with the higher pace. It's easier to find people for assists when the floor is less crowded. Also, adjusting for pace, if Kobe played with James Harden's pace throughout his prime, by the way, I had considered his prime from 2000 to 2013, he'd average around 5.6 assists per game, which isn't a huge jump from 5.2, but it is still pretty important. And then with the spacing, Harden is in a beneficial situation for his assists. And then another important thing for assists, for about 2 years, James Harden's assist numbers were inflated by Mike D'Antoni. As soon as Mike D'Antoni became the head coach of the Houston Rockets, Harden's assist average jumped from 7.5 to 11.2, a 3.7 assists per game difference. Do you really think that Harden just massively improved his vision that much? No. He was just put in an offense that featured him way more as a playmaker than previous. Kobe, as funny as the memes were about him being a ball hog, he was actually a pretty damn good passer. Harden is a better passer, but only like 15 to 20 to maybe 25% better. It's not a night and day difference. Now, if we can move on to the scoring, Kobe is also not the three-point shooter that James Harden is. In both of their primes, Harden doubles Kobe's three-point attempts per game and shoots a better percentage. Since 2012, Harden has shot 36% from 3 on 8.8 attempts per game. Kobe from 2000 to 2013 shot 34% on 4.3 attempts, so that's undoubtedly worse shooting. However, this is another case of an advantage from the era that he played in, making his stats look better than they would have if he played in Kobe's era. From 2012 to 2014, Harden was shooting just 6 three-pointers a game, and then he quickly got up to 13 threes a game for this year and last year, as threes became a bigger and bigger part of basketball. Ray Allen, for his career, has shot less than 6 threes a game because that was the product of his era. Same thing applies to Kobe. His prime was the 2000s, a time where shooting was not a huge part of the game, a time where a player with Kyle Korver's shooting talent was traded for cash to buy a fax machine. If Kobe's career started in 2012, he would have come up in the three-point era and in turn adapted his game to that play style. So I think the shooting difference is really just a product of the eras in which these guys played. But you still have to give the edge to Harden for three-point shooting and passing, but after that, that's where Harden starts losing the offensive battle. Kobe is about the same as a finisher at the rim as Harden, but Kobe is an infinitely better mid-range shooter. He beats Harden in percentage and kills him in attempts. Kobe has one of the greatest mid-range games in NBA history, an aspect of offense that, as we discussed 2 videos ago, is really important. But here's the big thing. I would argue that, yeah, during the regular season, James Harden is a better offensive player than Kobe Bryant. Not by much, but still a little bit better. But the thing is, the playoffs are why I refuse to call James Harden a better offensive player than Kobe. Because the most important thing in basketball is the playoffs, and if you cannot perform in the playoffs, then that other stuff doesn't mean shit. When it comes to the playoffs, Kobe has always performed at nearly exactly the same level as he has during the regular season. Like, it's actually scary how close the numbers are. From 2000 to 2013, Kobe put up 28.2 points, 5.2 assists, 5.7 rebounds, and he did so shooting 45.4%. In the playoffs, he put up 28.5 points, 5.2 assists, 5.5 rebounds, and he did so with a 55.1% shooting percentage. Those numbers barely waver at all. Now let's compare it to James Harden. Harden from 2012 to now puts up 29.4 points, 7.7 assists, and 6 rebounds with a 44.2% shooting percentage. In the playoffs, it drops to 28 points, 7 assists, and 5.7 rebounds on just a 41.2% shooting percentage. His three-point percentage also drops to 32%. That drop-off is not that significant, but I do think the drop-off is an indicator of the main reason why Kobe is a better offensive player than Harden, and that is versatility. James Harden does the same thing on every possession. He dribbles a bunch and either gets by his guy and drives, or he forces up a three-pointer. Now, as I said at the start of this, there is no doubt that this takes a lot of talent, but when it comes to the playoffs, this style just does not hold up. He is predictable. Kobe Bryant's versatility and mid-range game on offense allows for him to do pretty much anything, and you can't really tell what option he's going to go with, which is why he didn't have these same problems in the playoffs. And as my closing statement, while I do believe I said in the intro that there weren't really people saying that Harden is a better player all time than Kobe, because that includes accomplishments and not just individual accolades, though I am not going to use these accomplishments as a knock just from the numbers standpoint against James Harden, the fact that Kobe has 5 championships and Harden has 0 says a lot. I understand that 3 of those wouldn't have happened without Shaq, but still I can't put Harden over Kobe offensively because he has not proven that his offensive game can translate to winning at the highest level. And also one thing, I am a big fan of the true shooting percentage stat, but only when comparing today's players. It's pretty unfair to use true shooting percentage against against guys who are not big-time three-point shooters, because that really makes you just stand out in that category. True shooting percentage loves threes, hates mid-range shots, and loves guys who draw a crazy amount of free throws, and it's pretty unfair to compare those numbers for a player who did not play in the age of three-pointers. So yeah, shut up, Harden fans, stop disrespecting Kobe, and I don't even think he's better than Dwayne Wade. That's the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.